The prison yard was loud that afternoon. Weights clanging, inmates shouting, boots scraping concrete. Then it happened. 4 men stepped in front of him at the same time. Big bodies, scarred knuckles. The kind of inmates who ran the yard because no one had ever stood up to them. The new inmate stopped walking. He wasn't tall, wasn't muscular, didn't even look angry. One of the bullies laughed. "Wrong path, old man." Another circled behind him, cracking his neck. "You lost or you just stupid?" The man sighed. Not in fear, in disappointment. "I warned you," he said quietly, eyes still forward. "I don't like hurting people." The bullies froze for half a second, then burst out laughing. "Did you hear that? He thinks he's dangerous." They moved in. 2 seconds later, no punches echoed, no screams followed, just bodies hitting the ground. One, then another, then silence. The kind of silence that makes hardened inmates stop breathing. Every eye in the yard locked onto the man standing in the center, hands relaxed, posture calm, breathing slow. A guard in the tower whispered into his radio, "Get back up, now," because the inmate they'd surrounded wasn't bluffing. He wasn't a tough guy, wasn't pretending. He was a combat master, and the yard had just learned that lesson the hard way. Stay with me until the end. Because what he did next inside that prison made even the guards question who really controlled the yard. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get into it. Marcus Chen had arrived at Millbrook Correctional 3 weeks earlier. Gray jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. Wire-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. The kind of man you'd expect to see behind a desk, not behind bars. The intake officer barely glanced at his paperwork before stamping it approved. Another white-collar criminal. Another easy processing. The other inmates sized him up the moment he walked through those doors. Quiet demeanor, soft hands, never raised his voice, never made eye contact during confrontations. The predators smelled weakness immediately. But Marcus wasn't weak. He was careful. The first test came during his 2nd week. Lunch line. A massive inmate named Rodriguez shoved past him, spilling Marcus's tray across the floor. Food scattered. Other inmates watched, waiting for the reaction that would establish the pecking order. Marcus knelt down slowly, began picking up the scattered items. No anger in his movements, no humiliation in his posture, just methodical cleanup, while Rodriguez and his crew laughed above him. "Look at this guy," Rodriguez announced to the cafeteria. "Doesn't even know he's been disrespected." Marcus finished collecting the mess, stood up, met Rodriguez's eyes for exactly 2 seconds, then walked away without saying a word. The laughter followed him across the room. Rodriguez turned to his crew, grinning. "This is going to be fun." They had no idea what they were dealing with. Marcus had spent 22 years in military special operations, not the kind that make movies about, the kind that don't officially exist. Classified missions in countries that don't appear on maps. Training that pushed the human body and mind beyond normal limits. He could kill a man with his bare hands in 17 different ways. Had done it more times than he cared to remember. But that life was supposed to be over. The federal conviction changed everything. Conspiracy charges related to his work with a private military contractor. Operations that crossed legal lines in service of national security. The kind of gray area that creates heroes and criminals depending on who's asking the questions. His lawyer said 5 years minimum. His commanding officer said he'd been sacrificed for political convenience. The judge said justice demanded accountability. Marcus said nothing during sentencing, just like he said nothing during his first weeks at Millbrook. Speaking draws attention. Attention creates problems. Problems force difficult choices. He'd made enough difficult choices for one lifetime. The morning routine at Millbrook started at 6. Head count, breakfast, work detail. Marcus had been assigned to the library. Quiet work organizing books and helping inmates with legal research. Perfect for a man who preferred to remain invisible. But invisibility only works when predators allow it. Rodriguez found him there on a Tuesday morning, walked between the stacks with two of his crew members, found Marcus shelving books in the philosophy section. "You been avoiding me, college boy?" Marcus continued his work. "I don't think we have anything to discuss." "See, that's where you're wrong." Rodriguez stepped closer. "Everything in this place gets discussed through me. Food, protection, respect. Everything." Marcus placed a book carefully on the shelf, turned to face Rodriguez directly. "What do you want?" "Smart question. I want $50 a month. Protection fee. Keep the animals off your back while you serve your time." "I don't have $50. Then we got a problem." Rodriguez's crew spread out, blocking the exits. The library was empty except for them. No guards. No witnesses. Just the kind of isolated space where problems get solved permanently. Marcus evaluated the situation in seconds. 3 opponents. Rodriguez was large, but moved like someone who relied on intimidation more than skill. The other 2 looked like followers. Dangerous in groups, but uncertain alone. Distance to exits. Potential weapons. Sight lines from the corridor. His mind cataloged everything automatically. Muscle memory from decades of training he'd hoped never to use again. "I'll find the money," he said quietly. Rodriguez smiled. "Good answer. But since you made me come find you, there's a late fee. 25 extra this month. Consider it a lesson in respect." Marcus nodded, said nothing. Watched them leave. The next morning, word spread through the prison grapevine. Rodriguez had a new source of income. The quiet guy from the library. Easy target. Soft touch. Other inmates took notice. If Rodriguez could shake down the college boy, why couldn't they? By Thursday, Marcus had 3 different protection rackets demanding payment. By Friday, someone had rifled through his cell looking for hidden money. By Saturday, he couldn't eat a meal without someone demanding a portion. The guards noticed the pattern. Veteran corrections officers recognized the signs. New inmate. No prison connections. No gang affiliations. No reputation for violence. The perfect victim. Officer Thompson pulled Marcus aside after Sunday breakfast. 20-year veteran with gray hair and tired eyes. "You got a problem brewing," Thompson said. "These guys smell blood in the water. I can handle it." "No, you can't. Not the way you think." Thompson's voice carried the weight of experience. "You try to fight back, you'll end up in the hospital. Or worse. Best thing you can do is request protective custody. That's not happening. Pride's gonna get you killed in here." Marcus met his eyes. "It's not pride." Something in his tone made Thompson pause. A certainness that didn't match the mild-mannered inmate profile. But the moment passed. "Your funeral," Thompson muttered, walking away. That evening, Marcus sat in his cell making calculations. Protective custody meant isolation. 23 hours a day in a concrete box. No library work. No quiet corners. No peace. Fighting meant revealing himself, showing capabilities that would raise questions, drawing attention from people who shouldn't know certain things about his background. But doing nothing meant escalation, more demands, more violence. Eventually, someone would push far enough to force his hand anyway. The choice was between revealing himself now or revealing himself later under worse circumstances. Marcus made his decision. The next morning, he walked the yard at his usual time. Slow pace. No deviation from routine. But this time, he didn't avoid the main congregation areas. Rodriguez spotted him immediately. "There's our bank," he called out to his crew. "Time to make a withdrawal." Marcus kept walking. Steady pace. Eyes forward, breathing controlled. The 4 men positioned themselves perfectly. Rodriguez in front, 2 flanking, 1 behind. Classic intimidation formation, designed to overwhelm through positioning and numbers. They had no idea they were positioning themselves exactly where Marcus wanted them. The yard fell quiet around them. Other inmates sensed something different. Guards in the towers raised binoculars. Even the air seemed to thicken with anticipation. Rodriguez stepped into Marcus's path, close enough that stopping was the only option. Payment time, college boy. Marcus stopped walking. His hands stayed visible at his sides. His breathing remained steady. The four men formed their circle around him like wolves cornering prey. "I don't have your money," Marcus said quietly. Rodriguez laughed. Then we got ourselves a situation. The yard had gone quiet. Not completely silent, but muted. Conversations died mid-sentence. Weightlifting stopped. Even the guards in the towers turned their attention toward the brewing confrontation. "See? Here's the thing," Rodriguez continued, stepping closer. "In here, respect gets paid in cash or blood. Your choice." Marcus glanced around the circle. 4 men. Each one bigger than him. Each one with nothing to lose and everything to prove. The positioning was tactical, designed to prevent escape and maximize intimidation. They had chosen their ground well. A section of the yard where concrete walls created natural barriers, where sight lines from guard towers were partially obstructed, where help would take precious seconds to arrive. Professional assessment complete. "Last chance, college boy," Rodriguez said, cracking his knuckles. $50 or 50 stitches. Marcus closed his eyes for exactly 2 seconds. When he opened them, something had changed. Not in his posture, not in his stance, something deeper. "I warned you," he said, voice carrying across the suddenly quiet space. "I told you I don't like hurting people." The laughter started immediately, all 4 men finding genuine humor in the threat. Rodriguez doubled over, slapping his knee. "Did you hear that? He thinks he's dangerous." "Maybe he knows karate," one of them mocked, making exaggerated martial arts gestures. "Gonna chop us up with his library card," another added. They moved in simultaneously. Rodriguez from the front, 2 from the sides, 1 from behind. Coordinated assault. Overwhelming force. Standard prison intimidation escalated to violence. Marcus waited until they were committed to their attack, until momentum carried them forward, until retreat became impossible. Then he moved. The first technique was simple. Rodriguez's forward charge met Marcus's raised forearm at exactly the right angle. Not a block, a redirect. Physics doing the work instead of strength. Rodriguez's own momentum carried him past his target, off balance, stumbling forward into empty air. The second attacker came from the left. Marcus stepped inside his swing, closer instead of away. Counterintuitive movement that put him beneath the arc of the punch. His elbow found the man's solar plexus with surgical precision. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage. Hard enough to empty his lungs and drop him to his knees. 2 seconds elapsed. The third man hesitated. The easy intimidation had become something else entirely. Something that required actual fighting skills he wasn't sure he possessed. Marcus turned toward him. No anger in his expression. No excitement. Just professional assessment of the remaining threat. The man raised his fists uncertainly. "Walk away," Marcus said quietly. Instead, the man lunged forward. Desperation overriding caution. If he backed down now, his reputation in the yard would be finished. Better to take a beating than appear weak in front of 200 watching inmates. Marcus sidestepped the clumsy attack. His hand found the man's wrist. A simple joint manipulation that redirected all that forward momentum into a controlled fall. The concrete broke the impact, but not bones. Professional restraint in action. 3 down. Rodriguez had recovered his balance. Turned back toward Marcus with fury replacing confidence. The easy shakedown had become a humiliation in front of the entire yard. Witnesses everywhere. Guards watching. Reputation crumbling in real time. "You're dead," Rodriguez snarled, pulling a makeshift shiv from his pocket. The weapon changed everything. What had been assault became attempted murder. What had been restraint became survival. Marcus evaluated the blade. 4 inches of sharpened metal wrapped in tape. Crude, but effective. Designed to puncture organs and sever arteries. Rodriguez held it like someone who had used it before. The circle of watching inmates widened. Weapons brought guards running, but help was still 30 seconds away. long enough for someone to die. Rodriguez feinted left, then lunged right. The shiv aimed for Marcus's ribs, a killing thrust designed to puncture the lung and cause internal bleeding. Marcus moved like water, flowing around the attack instead of against it. His hand closed around Rodriguez's wrist, controlling the weapon while his body moved inside the larger man's reach. What happened next took less than a second. Joint manipulation, pressure point strike, balance disruption. 3 techniques flowing together so smoothly they appeared as one motion. Rodriguez went down hard. The shiv skittered across concrete, well out of reach. He tried to get up, then discovered his left shoulder wouldn't cooperate. Something important had been damaged. Not permanently, but thoroughly. Marcus stood over him, not victorious, not angry, just tired. "I warned you," he repeated, voice carrying across the silent yard. "I don't like hurting people." The guards arrived in force, 6 officers with riot gear and tasers. They found 4 inmates on the ground and 1 standing calmly with his hands raised. "On your knees!" the lead guard shouted. Marcus complied immediately, hands behind his head. No resistance, no attitude. Just cooperation with the system he understood better than anyone realized. "What happened here?" Officer Thompson demanded, arriving with the second wave of backup. 200 inmates had witnessed everything. 200 different versions of the truth would emerge. But the security cameras had captured it all. Frame-by-frame documentation of a textbook self-defense scenario. Rodriguez groaned from the concrete. "He jumped us, came out of nowhere, used some kind of weapon." Thompson looked around. No weapons visible except the shiv beside Rodriguez. No blood except from scraped knuckles. No evidence of anything except 4 men who had picked the wrong target. "Cuff them all," Thompson ordered. "Let the review board sort it out." Marcus felt the restraints close around his wrists. Standard procedure. He would spend the next 72 hours in isolation while investigators reviewed the footage and took statements. But as they led him away, something had changed in the yard. Conversations resumed, but with different undertones. Respect replacing mockery, caution replacing aggression. The quiet man from the library wasn't so quiet anymore. Word spread through the prison faster than wildfire. Rodriguez and his crew had been neutralized by someone nobody saw coming, not with gang backup or hidden weapons or political connections. With skill. Pure, undeniable, professional skill. By evening count, every inmate in Millbrook knew the story. Details varied, but the core remained consistent. The college boy wasn't what he appeared to be. The smart money started asking different questions. What kind of white-collar criminal moved like that? What kind of conspiracy charges landed someone with those abilities in minimum security? What exactly had Marcus Chen done before he arrived at Millbrook? The answers would come eventually. But for now, the yard had learned a valuable lesson about judging books by their covers. Some covers hide very dangerous stories. The isolation cell was 8 feet by 10 feet. Concrete walls, steel door, a slot for food trays, and nothing else. Marcus sat on the narrow cot, hands folded in his lap, eyes closed. Meditation came easily after years of practice. Control the breath, control the mind, control the situation. 3 days of investigation. 3 days of stories changing as inmates realized their initial accounts didn't match the security footage. 3 days of guards reviewing video that showed exactly what happened and wondering how they missed the signs. Officer Thompson stood outside the cell with Marcus's file, the real file, not the summary they'd received during intake, but the classified version that required security clearance to access. 22 years military service, multiple commendations, operations in 7 countries, skills that made Rodriguez's shakedown attempt look like amateur hour. The door opened. Thompson entered alone. "We need to talk." Marcus opened his eyes. "About what?" "About who you really are." Thompson sat on the single chair. "I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen gang leaders, murderers, drug dealers. I know dangerous when I see it. But you're something different. Marcus said nothing, waiting. Your file came back from Washington this morning. Took them 3 days to declassify enough information for us to understand what we're dealing with. Thompson leaned forward. Special Operations Command. Classified missions. The kind of training that costs taxpayers millions of dollars per soldier. That life is over. Is it? Because what happened in the yard looked pretty familiar to me. Textbook neutralization. Minimal force. Maximum efficiency. That's not something you learn watching YouTube videos. Marcus met his eyes. 4 men attacked me. I defended myself. The cameras show exactly that. The cameras show a lot more than that. Thompson pulled out a tablet, swiped to the video footage. Rodriguez comes at you full speed. 260 pounds of muscle and rage. You redirect his momentum with one arm movement. Physics, not strength. The video played in slow motion. Every detail visible. Second attacker comes from your left. You step inside his swing, closer to danger instead of away from it. Counterintuitive unless you know exactly what you're doing. Elbow strike to the solar plexus, calculated to disable, not maim. Marcus watched himself on screen. The movements looked different from this angle. More deliberate, more professional. Third guy hesitates because he realizes something's wrong. You give him a chance to walk away. When he doesn't take it, you control his attack and put him down without causing permanent damage. Thompson paused the video. And Rodriguez with the shiv. That's where it gets interesting. The footage showed the weapon appearing. Rodriguez's killing thrust. Marcus's response. Joint manipulation on the wrist. Pressure point strike to disable the shoulder. Balance disruption to control the fall. 3 techniques in under a second, flowing together like water. That's not self-defense. That's artistry. Thompson set the tablet aside. The question is, what do we do now? You follow protocol. Complete the investigation. File the report. Protocol says you defended yourself legally. No charges, no disciplinary action. You go back to general population tomorrow morning. Thompson stood up. But general population just watched you take apart 4 seasoned inmates like they were children. Word spreads fast in here. By tomorrow, every predator in this place will either want to test you or recruit you. Marcus leaned back against the wall. What are you suggesting? Transfer to administrative segregation. Voluntary isolation. You serve your time alone. Safe from complications. That's not living. That's existing. It's surviving. Which is more than Rodriguez can guarantee his crew right now. Thompson was right. The yard had rules. Unwritten codes that governed everything from meal distribution to shower schedules. Violence was common, but humiliation demanded response. Rodriguez couldn't let the incident stand without losing face permanently. There's another option, Thompson continued. Work detail in the administrative wing. Away from general population during the day. Single cell at night. Minimal contact with other inmates. And maximum contact with guards who know my background. Some risks are better than others. Marcus considered the choices. Isolation meant safety but no peace. Administrative work meant exposure but less chaos. General population meant constant vigilance and inevitable escalation. None of them felt right. I'll take general population, he said finally. Thompson shook his head. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. The door closed behind Thompson. Marcus returned to his meditation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new tests, new choices between the man he used to be and the man he was trying to become. The morning alarm echoed through the corridors at 6 sharp. Marcus dressed slowly, methodically. Gray jumpsuit, standard issue shoes, wire-rimmed glasses that made him look harmless to anyone who didn't know better. The walk back to general population felt different. Conversations stopped as he passed. Eyes tracked his movement. Respect mixed with fear in equal measure. His cell had been searched while he was gone. Not officially, but thoroughly. Every possession examined, every hiding place investigated. The message was clear. Someone wanted to know exactly who they were dealing with. Rodriguez was in the medical wing. Dislocated shoulder, the rumors said. Possible nerve damage. He'd be back eventually, but not soon. His crew had scattered to different gangs, looking for protection and new leadership. The power vacuum created opportunities. Marcus made his way to the cafeteria for breakfast. The usual routine, but with new dynamics. Inmates who had never acknowledged his existence now nodded respectfully. Tables that had been off-limits suddenly offered space. He chose his usual corner seat. Alone, facing the room. Back to the wall. Old habits from a different life. Mind if I sit? Marcus looked up. An older inmate stood with a breakfast tray. Gray hair, careful posture, intelligent eyes. Someone who had learned to navigate the system through patience rather than violence. Free country, Marcus replied. The man sat down. Name's Williams. Been here 8 years. Financial crimes, like you. I haven't been charged with financial crimes. No, but you're not a murderer either. Not the traditional kind. Williams took a bite of scrambled eggs. Conspiracy charges related to military contracting. That's what the rumors say. Marcus ate in silence. Information traveled fast in prison. Too fast. Here's what I know, Williams continued. You just changed the balance of power in this place. Rodriguez ran protection rackets, drug distribution, gambling operations. With him out of commission, other players are moving to fill the void. Not my concern. It will be. Because everyone's wondering the same thing. Are you building an organization or flying solo? Williams leaned closer. That decision affects every inmate in here. Marcus finished his breakfast. Stood to leave. Think about it, Williams called after him. Power exists whether you want it or not. Question is whether you use it wisely. The library felt different when Marcus returned to work. Quieter, more respectful. Inmates who visited spoke in hushed tones, asked permission before approaching his desk. The ecosystem had shifted around his presence. Books needed shelving. Legal research required assistance. Normal work for normal circumstances. But nothing felt normal anymore. Footsteps approached from behind the stacks. Marcus looked up to see 3 inmates he didn't recognize. Young men with gang tattoos and suspicious expressions. They positioned themselves strategically around his desk. We need to talk, the leader said. Marcus set down his book. About what? It's about respect, about territory, about understanding how things work around here. I understand perfectly. Do you? Because word is you think you can just walk in here and change the rules. The young man stepped closer. Rodriguez was small time. We're not. Marcus cataloged the situation. 3 opponents. Library setting. Multiple exits. No weapons visible, but that didn't mean they weren't present. What do you want? Partnership. You've got skills. We've got organization. Together, we could run this whole place. I'm not interested in running anything. That's not how it works. You don't get to stay neutral after what you did. You're either with us or against us. Marcus stood slowly. The movement caused all 3 men to tense, hands moving unconsciously toward potential weapons. One gesture had revealed their true intentions. I choose option 3, Marcus said quietly. There is no option 3. There is now. The silence stretched between them. Other inmates in the library sensed the tension and began moving toward the exits. Even the guard at the main desk looked up from his paperwork. You've got 24 hours to decide, the leader said finally. After that, the offer expires. They left as quietly as they had arrived, but the message lingered. Neutrality was no longer an option. The yard had chosen sides, and everyone expected Marcus to do the same. That evening, Marcus sat in his cell reviewing his choices. Join a gang and compromise everything he'd tried to leave behind. Resist and face constant warfare with multiple organizations. Transfer to isolation and abandon any hope of normal life. Or find option 4. The idea formed slowly. Not cooperation with existing power structures, but creation of something entirely different. Not a gang or protection racket, but a service. Something that filled a need without requiring violence or exploitation. By lights out, Marcus had made his decision. Tomorrow would bring new conversations, new proposals, new opportunities to define exactly who he intended to become during his remaining time at Millbrook. The yard was about to learn that combat masters don't just know how to fight, they know how to lead. And sometimes, the most dangerous weapon is the man who refuses to use violence until absolutely necessary. But when that moment comes, when all other options are exhausted, when good men are threatened by those who mistake mercy for weakness, that's when the real combat begins. And Marcus Chen was just getting started. The morning brought unexpected visitors. 2 men in expensive suits waiting in the visitors' room. Federal agents based on their posture and the way they scanned the room for threats. Marcus had seen their type before, but this meeting would change everything about his time at Millbrook. Because some secrets can't stay buried forever, and some skills are too valuable to waste behind prison walls. What they offered him that morning would force Marcus to choose between the quiet life he wanted and the dangerous life his country still needed him to live. The federal agents introduced themselves as Patterson and Mills, clean-shaven, cold eyes, the kind of men who spoke in measured sentences and never revealed more than necessary. "Mr. Chen," Patterson began, sliding a manila folder across the metal table, "your country has a problem." Marcus didn't touch the folder. "I'm not in the problem-solving business anymore. Intelligence suggests otherwise." Mills leaned forward. 4 inmates neutralized in under 10 seconds. Minimal force applied. Textbook execution of advanced combat techniques. That's not someone who's retired. The visiting room buzzed with quiet conversations. Wives talking to husbands. Children drawing pictures for fathers they barely knew. Normal prison life continuing around them, while something far from normal unfolded at table 6. "What do you want?" Marcus asked. Patterson opened the folder. Photographs spilled out. Satellite images, surveillance footage, a compound in a country Marcus recognized but couldn't name officially. 3 American engineers, captured 2 weeks ago while building water purification systems in Southeast Asia. Their kidnappers are demanding ransom the government won't pay, and prisoner exchanges we can't make. Marcus studied the images without touching them. Professional habit. Memorize without leaving fingerprints. "The facility is heavily guarded," Mills continued. "Remote location. No road access. Helicopter insertion only. Local authorities are compromised. Military intervention would trigger an international incident. Sounds like a job for Delta Force. Delta doesn't have someone with your specific skill set." Patterson's voice dropped lower. "You spent 3 years in that region. You know the terrain, the culture, the language. More importantly, you know how to get in and out without starting a war." Marcus pushed the photographs away. "I'm serving a federal sentence. Even if I wanted to help, which I don't, the logistics are impossible. Actually, they're not." Mills produced a second folder. "Presidential commutation. Effective immediately upon mission completion. Full pardons for all charges. Clean record. Fresh start." The offer hung in the air like smoke. Freedom. Redemption. A chance to erase the mistakes that had landed him at Millbrook. But Marcus had learned to recognize traps disguised as opportunities. "What's the real timeline?" he asked. 72 hours, Patterson admitted. "After that, the engineers become leverage in a much larger negotiation we can't allow to happen. And if the mission fails, you die serving your country instead of rotting in a cell. Some would call that an upgrade." Marcus leaned back in his chair. Around them, families shared precious moments, while guards watched for contraband and inappropriate contact. Normal people living normal lives while he considered diving back into the darkness he'd tried to leave behind. "I need guarantees," he said finally, "such as full operational control, no oversight during execution, no political interference, and if I survive, the slate gets wiped completely clean." Mills and Patterson exchanged glances. Silent communication between partners who had worked together long enough to read each other's thoughts. "Done," Patterson said. "When do we leave?" You don't understand." Mills smiled for the first time. You're not leaving Millbrook. Officially, you're still serving your sentence. Unofficially, you'll be extracted tonight for a training exercise that doesn't exist. Marcus felt the familiar weight of operational planning settling onto his shoulders. Details to consider, contingencies to prepare, variables to control, equipment specifications, whatever you need. Money is no object. Insertion method? Your choice. We've got assets in place for multiple scenarios. Extraction plan? Also your choice. But remember, this never happened. No records, no acknowledgement, no glory. The meeting ended 15 minutes later. Handshakes exchanged, folders collected, normal visiting hours resuming as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Marcus returned to his cell with his mind already shifting into mission mode. 3 American lives hanging in the balance. 72 hours to plan and execute. No backup if things went wrong. He'd missed this feeling more than he cared to admit. That evening, the power went out in C Block for exactly 17 minutes. Security cameras experienced a malfunction. Guards were called to handle a disturbance in the kitchen. Standard chaos that happens in every prison eventually. When the lights came back on, Marcus Chen was gone. In his place lay a dummy made from pillows and blankets. Good enough to fool a casual head count. Not good enough to survive detailed inspection. But by morning, it wouldn't matter. Marcus Chen disappeared that night, but his legend at Millbrook lived on forever. The federal agents got their combat master. 3 American engineers came home alive, and somewhere in the world, a ghost with wire-rimmed glasses continues serving his country in ways that will never make the evening news. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look completely harmless. Sometimes real strength comes from knowing when not to fight. And sometimes, the quiet man in the corner has stories that could shake the foundations of everything you think you know. Never underestimate someone who warns you about what they're capable of. Because when a true combat master tells you he doesn't like hurting people, he's not making a threat. He's offering you mercy. What do you think happened to Marcus after his extraction? Drop your theories in the comments below. Smash that like button if this story kept you hooked, and subscribe for more incredible tales that prove reality is stranger than fiction.